Now, the I-Team exposes a major breakdown at the Houston Police Department.
Jeremy Rogalski uncovers how a crack in the system has handcuffed thousands of crimes from being solved.
Ron and Lily, we're talking about fingerprints and what Houston police often fail to do after lifting them at a crime scene.
It's often the only lead to solving a crime, a crook's signature left at the scene that cops can run through a massive fingerprint database and match to the suspected thieves.
You can see the prints. They were clear as day.
It's why Andrew Rohrer had high hopes after bad guys broke into his home. They took $5,000 in electronics, but on a backyard window, left 2 palm prints behind.
Good evidence. You would think so, and that's what the cop said.
But that HPD cop never followed through with that evidence, and more than a year and a half later, never requested it to be analyzed at Houston's crime lab.
What do you think about the fact that your prints have been sitting on a shelf all this time?
I'm absolutely shocked. It's the type of thing that makes you lose faith in the police department.
There was some prints here.
And he's far from alone. At Katina Jones's home, you can still see the burglar's prints that HPD lifted, but never asked the lab to run.
Not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all.
Making the chances for an arrest slim to none.
They didn't seem like it was a big deal to them. It's like, okay, another break-in.
The problem is pervasive. The I-Team analyzed more than 4,400 crimes with recovered fingerprint evidence, and in more than half of those, HPD failed to request lab analysis. And it's not just burglary cases, but aggravated robberies, assaults, even murder.
Did you know about this problem before we started asking questions?
No, I did not.
HPD Interim Chief Martha Montalvo.
It should have been caught, but it wasn't.
What do you tell that crime victim when they hear this?
I can only apologize. This shouldn't have happened. There was a crack in the process. We are working to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Here you're going to select latent print processing.
Chief Montalvo is now requiring officers to watch this training video again. And she says she's met with patrol and detective captains to drive the point home.
She said that when we mess up, we're going to fess up and we're going to clean up.
It's something Police Union President Ray Hunt supports, but he says there's a better way than having to manually enter requests into the crime lab's computer system.
You can do a program that automatically notifies the Houston Forensic Science Center, here's a print, it needs to be tested.
Silver passed down through generations.
Whatever the fix, it can't come too soon for victims like James Quillen. Thieves turned his home upside down. And as long as police sit on evidence,
they'll get away with it and commit other crimes. You know, if you get away with it, you're going to continue doing it.
But turns out HPD isn't the only one with a problem. What happens when police do request fingerprint analysis by the city's crime lab? Well, that answer's coming your way tonight at 10, but here's a hint. Hurry up and wait. Jeremy Rogalski, KHOU 11 News.
Tonight, the I-Team is standing up for people not getting what they paid for.
Investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski uncovers how homeowners were shortchanged and misled by the constables paid to keep them safe.
Ed Harris takes pride in keeping up his property and keeping an eye out for neighborhood crime. But when it comes to police protection,
I'm not getting my money's worth.
Period, the end.
Period.
Harris lives in Municipal Utility District, or MUD 43. It uses his tax dollars to pay for extra patrols by the Harris County Precinct 4 Constable Office. But the I-Team found Precinct 4 was shortchanging not only Harris,
don't appreciate it,
but many other homeowners in many other neighborhoods. For instance, in this monthly report to MUD 43 last August, it says Deputy K-14 worked 18 days. But that's misleading when you examine his timesheets, because K-14 only worked 4 hours in MUD 43 on those days. The rest of his shift, he was assigned somewhere else.
They're doing half days instead of full days. That is completely unacceptable.
In Timberlane, Cody Melancon's neighborhood, records show the same thing was happening, and not just during 1 month, but 5 last year.
Their motto is protect and serve, and right now we're paying to be served and we're not being served.
And that can mean not protected.
They came right in and took my TV.
Sally Dixon became a crime victim during a short trip to the store.
I was gone maybe 10, 15 minutes, and I come back and my door was wide open. And I just knew.
The lack of police presence can be an invitation for thieves.
I mean, that's what makes us vulnerable. They want to come after us because they don't see cops out here.
In fact, in some cases, Records show deputies were working as little as 1 or 2 hours in a neighborhood, but counting it as a full day. Why did they do it? Well, one reason is they were told to by Precinct 4's command staff that scheduled them that way. In all, the I-team examined 6 months worth of records and found 27 communities were skimped out of what they paid for. But Precinct 4 says it didn't know about most of those, telling us only 2 neighborhoods were owed patrol time. So, I'd like to chat with you about shortchanging neighborhoods. We went to the constable himself, Mark Herman, for answers. Can you just give some homeowners an explanation?
Make an appointment with my secretary and we'll talk to you at the office, happily.
Happily? We previously did ask for an interview, but Herman declined. And in the end, all we got was a 2-sentence statement. His office works to ensure all residents of Precinct 4 receive the best law enforcement services, and if homeowners have concerns, it will work to resolve any issue.
We have not received anything from Precinct 4.
But many, like Wes Orton, were left in the dark.
The numbers don't make sense
until we showed them our findings. Orton oversees a pricey $500,000 patrol contract for several Atascocita neighborhoods.
As a family man and a homeowner, I want to make sure that our property and our lives are being taken care of.
After our interview, Wes Orton tells us he finally heard from Precinct 4's top brass and says constables are now making good on a month and a half of patrol time. So, is your neighborhood affected? Find out by logging on to KHOU.com. In Northwest Harris County, Jeremy Rogalski, KHOU 11 News.
Exactly 1 year ago today, Houston approved the city's $8 million police body camera program.
It was supposed to bring more transparency to the department, but KHOU 11 Investigates spent 4 months looking into the program and found out how it's falling short of its promises.
The citizens are straight up fed up.
Body-worn cameras are going to foster accountability.
Just like the automatic replay in sports, we're going to depend on these cameras to show us what really happened.
Citizens are going to demand transparency.
Transparency.
And anything less will create more problems in the community than it solves.
You start off wrong, you end wrong.
At about 12:30 at night, there's a man named Alva Brazil. He's walking down the street, and he actually walks into the street, waving his arms, and he's got a gun in his hand.
My partner and I were coming northbound on Cullen, and he's got his arm up, and we thought he was flagging us down for something, so we just slow rolled to him, and I turned my spotlight on him, and I saw him pointing the gun at us.
The thing is, both officers in that car had cameras on, but they weren't rolling when they came up to the scene.
We don't see the shooting. We don't see what led up to it. The man is already shot and on the ground.
I called for an ambulance.
This was the first real high-profile test of this department's body-worn camera policy. Pass or fail.
If the officer's primary responsibility was his safety, he passed. If his primary responsibility was videotaping the entire scene, he failed. But that's not his primary responsibility. His primary responsibility is to make sure he's safe and the public's safe.
That body camera should have been on immediately when they said he tried to flag him down. I didn't hear stop, freeze, put the gun down, get down, none of that. If it's not turned on, you don't know what the truth is.
The truth about Houston's body camera program is much bigger than one case. Just look at what prosecutors were emailing police. The DA's office looked at the first 2 months of the body camera program. What they found was, of all the cases filed by cops with cameras, there was a ton of cases where there was no video.
How many are we talking here?
729 cases with no video in the first 2 months of the program. Do you dispute the district attorney's numbers?
I would never dispute her numbers.
She identifies more than 700 cases filed by officers who were assigned body cams in which there was no video. What happened to the video?
I do not know what criteria she is using.
This is evidence. If you can't find the evidence, how do you proceed in court?
There has never been a situation or a case where evidence was not provided to the district attorney's office, ever.
the public is expecting the cameras to be used for the protection of the officer, protection of the citizen. And then when the video is asked for, there's no video. It's an insult. It's an insult to the public.
We get a F mark. We flunk.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. 8 out of 75 is not what we were looking for. Channel 11 is our litmus test for this. You're going back and doing open records requests on videos that you can't get. So it puts us in a tough spot. We don't know how effective our video cameras are.
And assault. So we're trying to look at videos in 4 types of crimes.
Right. Resisting arrest, evading arrest.
Interfering with police, and assault on a police officer.
These are going to be the crimes that use of force is likely going to be a key issue.
You need to get on your stomach right now.
I'm Randall Callanan, and I am a civil rights lawyer in Houston, Texas.
Get on your stomach.
And we see here that they did use the taser on him, but it seemed to be an appropriate use because he had already threatened the officers with physical violence several times and was actually moving towards one of the officers with his fist raised when the taser was discharged. There's many things wrong with this second set of videos. First of all, it's not continuous. It was turned off and turned on.
What are you doing to? What are y'all doing to me? I'm coming.
What was it that made the officer feel it was justified to use any force whatsoever? Without that missing section, we can't tell whether the force was justified or unjustified.
Relax, relax.
This is a game changer in our country. It's a game changer in our city. So if we don't have confidence in the cameras or the video, then what's the point?
I'd like to reaffirm how important this issue of transparency is. We dedicated a portion of the policy to dealing with audits of recordings. Wanted to give you an idea that there's some accountability from an officer's supervisor that they check these videos.
Have you done a single audit to date?
We have done a random audit, yes.
How many?
1.
6 months, 1 audit.
Yes.
Is that transparent?
We knew this was a learning curve. This is a new process. We're having to work with outside entities, and we are going to eventually figure it all out, tighten our policies, and have a process that I think the city would be very proud of.
This is from Denver?
Yeah. What this is Denver's error report, and they do it weekly.
Every week?
Yeah, they do it every Monday.
Every single Monday they check on their cops to say who's doing this right and who's not. The difference is huge here. Houston has none of this.
Right, no, not at all.
If they don't know where the problem is, how are they going to know how to fix
Correct it? Yeah.
How else are you going to check the effectiveness in it? To me, it's like making sausage in the dark because you don't know what's going on and you don't know what you're putting in it.
So, Jeremy, you have uncovered a lot here. Curious to know what the mayor has to say about it. Has he even seen it?
He did. Just yesterday, he told me he's watched the entire half-hour docuseries online at bodycamtransparency.com. He says when his new police chief, Art Acevedo, comes on board, he's going to have a serious discussion about the state of our city's body camera program.
Well, it's really something. And also, you're making a call to action to the public, aren't you?
Yeah, folks at home, if what you just watched concerns you and you feel compelled to make your voice heard, well, you can do that by going on to bodycamtransparency.com and clicking right here, our call to action. Here you can tell city leaders that you want to see more transparency in HPD's body camera program. We're going to be collecting all of these petitions and taking them straight to City Hall.
All right, it's good work, and there is a learning